Hey there, this is Kevin from maximizingecommerce.com. I help people build e-commerce businesses that they can be proud of. And in this video, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the recent changes that Amazon went through regarding the long-term storage fee. So how it might affect you and things that you can do to potentially lower that risk that you might have if you have long-term storage fees that you've been charged in the past. So we'll go ahead and get started. So Amazon sent out this email here, which you probably got as well, regarding long-term storage fees. And the first bullet point is that basically for standard size items, for the cubic foot per month, it went up by 5 cents. Now that's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, that's something you could absorb into your costs pretty easily. Like, I want to say last month I did around $18,000 in sales in Amazon in the US. And I was charged, I looked it up, it was like $82. So $82 for $18,000 in sales is peanuts. So if I get charged an extra 10%, because it's basically going up from 64 to 69 cents per cubic foot for standard size items, and that's for outside of the holidays. In fact, in the holidays, when they traditionally raise that price for just regular monthly storage fees, it's going from $235 to $240 a month. So that's fine. I mean, they have costs that go up. We can raise our prices a little bit here and there, or just absorb it, and it's not going to be a huge thing. But what is a bigger thing is they actually are charging now a different way of looking at the long-term storage fee. So the way it worked in the past was, well, up until last month. So I'm recording this in March of 2018. So in February of 2018 was the last time they assessed long-term storage fees the way they have been doing it in the past. And what they were doing was, if you had something that had been in the warehouse for at least 6 months when they got to the point of assessing the long-term storage fees, what they did was they said, okay, it was, and they've got it on here, you're charged $11.25 per cubic foot for everything that had been in there for at least 6 months, and if it had been in there for a full year, it was charged $22.50. It was just a one-time fee, and they charge those fees twice a year, depending whether it had been at least 6 months or at least 12 months a year. And there were ways of getting around that. In fact, I think Amazon's gotten smart because they're moving this to now a monthly model. So whenever something has been in a warehouse for at least 6 months, doesn't matter when it is, you're going to be assessed a fee of $3.45 per cubic foot, a minimum of 50 cents per unit. So that could be a big difference. So basically, if something's in there for 4 months, you're now paying more 4 months after the 6 month point, I should say, than if you were assessed a long-term storage fee for that. So, because it used to be easier to get around the long-term storage fee. So for example, anything that would have been in back in February, back last month, that was going back to August the 15th, if anything was put into the Amazon warehouse before then and was still in the warehouse come February 15th, well, guess what? It was just charged a long-term storage fee. I actually didn't have any long-term storage fees. I probably will have some more in the future, because what I was doing in the past was, to be completely honest with you, and this is why I think they're smart for doing it the way they're doing it, is I would say, okay, August 15th, I know the clock is going to start for anything that goes in, let's say, August 10th. So if I had products that, let's say, it's the end of July, and I'm like, I need to get some of this stuff behind me into an Amazon warehouse, I would have just waited until after August 15th, because the clock really wasn't going to start for whether or not it was 6 months until February. So February would come around, and it hadn't been in there for a full 6 months, so I didn't get assessed anything. So then it means I wouldn't be assessed unless it had been in again in August. So for some of my slower moving items, I was just strategic in when I sent stuff in. Now, I'm going to still have to be strategic, but I'm just going to have to do it differently. So this is going to be one thing that's going to be a kind of a little bit of a game changer for sellers, but there's ways around this. So a couple things you could do to make it better off is, if you are like me and you store stuff in your garage. So we're in my garage right now, and you can see I've got boxes, and what you can't see is there's boxes all around me, and I had to make like a little alcove for myself to set up this this little spot where I'm recording. So I would say you could just hold on to it if you can in your house. Now, maybe you say, Kevin, I don't have a garage, or I need the garage for my car and I don't have all the space to put it. Well, you could hire companies to do it. There's a lot of third-party logistic companies and prep companies that will store your stuff. And a lot of them are very competitive to what Amazon's normal monthly fees are. So you could actually end up, let's say you have 1,000 units and you only want to send 500 of them to Amazon, and you have them, your 3PL or prep company or whoever's storing it, store it for a while. Or you could even just get a storage unit nearby. So whatever that cost is to store it outside of Amazon might be better than as if that particular inventory might stay in longer than 6 months. So you're at least reducing your risk of paying the long-term storage fees, because 50 cents a unit adds up quickly. So if you have 500 units that are in there, you're going to be charged $250 a month if it's 50 cents per unit. So if those are staying in there for, like, let's say another 3-4 months, you're starting to, those fees are starting to get steep. So if you could get a storage unit for $100 a month, you have to just kind of do the math and see if it works for you. But you can see where I'm going with that. That you have different options of what you could do depending on what the math works out for you. Another thing you can do is just try to negotiate lower minimum order quantities with suppliers. I'm a big believer that you don't want to order big quantities. So if you can save a little bit by ordering larger quantities, sometimes it's not worth it, because, like, you see boxes behind me and there's boxes next to me. Sometimes it drives me crazy that I have all these boxes, because that's cash. That's money that I can't spend elsewhere, that I can't use to buy new products or something like that, or invest in the business in some other ways. So you want to turn your inventory, I would say at least a minimum. Some people might say you want to do more than this, but a minimum of 2 to 3 times per year. And like for me, for example, for what's in Amazon, they're telling me I have basically, it was like 2.5 turns in my inventory approximately. And that's what I have in the warehouses right now, plus whatever I have here. So let's call it 2.25 turns of stock that I have. Because if you're taking an entire year to turn over your inventory, so whatever your inventory is, if it takes you a full year, then all that money is sitting on the shelf and you're only getting whatever you're putting in, and then the money you get back out, you're only getting it really once. Now, that's not exactly perfect because the way, the cash flow works and things of that nature. But the bottom line is you want to be turning over the inventory quickly. So the more you can turn over inventory, the better off you're going to be. So that's one way to mitigate it. And then also another change that they're coming up with is they've got these scores. So this is what my score was as of today. You can see it was 584. When I got the email from Amazon a couple weeks ago, it was 597. They change the score every week, but your score is going to depend on a couple different factors. Stranded inventory, which you shouldn't have stranded inventory. It's basically inventory you send in that they're not expecting. You should always set up your inventory ahead of time just so they know it's coming. So that's an easy thing to get pretty high scores on, because that seems to be a big part of it. They don't really say exactly how it is, but it's excess units. If you have too many excess units, that could bring you down. So there's ways of course, managing excess units. Like I mentioned before, you could store it yourself or store it offsite somewhere else other than at Amazon. And then there were, I'll just draw a blank there. There was another factor, but bottom line, your score is something that's going to have an effect on whether or not you are able to have a certain number of units in stock. So the big thing with the number of units in stock is you have to have a score of at least 350. If you have more than 350 starting on July 1st, 2018, you're able to have as much inventory as possible. Now, don't abuse that, because really what they're doing is they're saying the people that are managing it well are going to be rewarded by not having artificial limits on what you can send in. But you should still manage that so that you're reducing your costs for holding it at Amazon, especially avoiding those long-term storage fees. But 350, I mean, I would say that's pretty achievable to do so. I mean, like I said, it was 597 was my score a while back, and that was 2 weeks ago, and 584 as of this morning. So I'm curious to know what have you seen with the scoring? You can leave a comment down below. What are you going to do to mitigate your risk of long-term storage fees? I'd love to hear that as well. So hopefully you found this video helpful. And if you did, please like and subscribe to this channel. And then we'll be more than happy to show you other videos that will hopefully help you as you're on your e-commerce journey. So thank you so much for watching and have a great day.